To Stuart Morse Meets, and Stuart Morse Meets Mark Bickley, aka the Wizard. Yeah?
If you say so.
Well, I don't see you disagreeing.
Well, I used to be called the Wizard before.
What as?
When I played football.
Okay, tell me about that then.
Oh, I used to play on the wing and
On the wing?
used to dance and dodge around a little bit.
Is that one of the wingers that sort of like run down the wings but don't get dirty?
It's funny you should say that. I often came off the pitch not very dirty and not very sweaty either. I think my old man used to say had an economy of effort.
Okay.
That was the word he used to use. But
So tell us about, where'd you play? Obviously down the wing, but what teams?
back in the day I played Saturdays and Sundays. I used to play for a team called Withall just outside Birmingham. I played briefly for Highgate United, Solihull Borough as they were in those days. I did play a couple of games for AP Leamington as they were
Right.
back in the day, in the Graham Horner time, late sort of 80s, early 80s. But yeah, mainly played more on a Sunday than I did on a Saturday, to be honest.
Okay. Is that more of a social thing?
Yeah, well, football was a social thing in those days, wasn't it? It's like, Saturday was supposedly the main game. You'd go out afterwards, have a few drinks, end up with a curry at 1 o'clock in the morning, and then get up on a Sunday morning and go out and play Premier Sunday morning football. It was, I don't know how I did it. Couldn't do it now. Couldn't go out on the lash and get up in the morning and have a game of football now. Not a chance.
I bet you weren't on the old wine then though, were you?
No, I wasn't on the wine then, no.
Yeah, so you've
Got a bit more cultured as I got older.
bit more cultured is, that into professional life, I take it.
Is that what it is? Yeah, okay. If you say so, Stu.
So, what brought you to Stratford?
I played football for Stratford. I was living in Solihull, but I actually started playing football for Stratford must have been early 80s for the reserves. I think Stu Dixon was manager at the time. That was when I first got involved with Stratford. But I started playing over this way because I used to be player manager of a Sunday team at Chadwick End, and they played in the Leamington League, so obviously I used to come over here all the time. And then drifted away when I I wouldn't say when I finished playing, but sort of in late 30s, and then Stuart Dixon asked me to come back. He was running the first team, and I ran the reserves for a season to help him out. Played a few games, and got involved with the club a little bit, and then stopped playing. Carried on. I moved down to Henley-on-Thames for 6-7 years through work, and then when I came back, I played in a charity game on a Sunday morning in Chadwick End, and Stuart Dixon was playing, and he asked me to come and help out. Playing for the team. They hadn't got a manager of the reserve side, so I ran the reserve side. I think I must have been 44. I was still playing because it was one of them things that the manager would take 3 of your best players off you at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, so you had 10 plus me. So we just managed to see the season out. And then once again, a bit later on, bumped into Craig Hughes, who used to be the chairman. I actually moved to Stratford. We decided to move to Stratford, and I went down and watched a game one Saturday afternoon, and amazingly 2 of the players who used to play for Leamington and Kidderminster's youth teams, which was Dennis Mulholland and Richard Evans, were managing Romulus and Stratford Town, and I couldn't get them to do anything when they were players, but now they were managing a team, and I just found it hilarious. And I just got back involved in the club. It was just before we were due to move down here in 2008. I got talked into managing the ladies' team in the bar one night. Shouldn't be drinking and agreeing to do things because they hadn't got a manager. So I managed the ladies' team for a season. We played on the NFU,
Right.
which I enjoyed, but it was challenging, different, and then bit by bit I just got involved with the club more and more. Became kit man for 2 or 3 years. I think Mickey Moore was manager, Rod Brown was manager, and I was kit man at that time. And then bit by bit, used to get involved in trying to get a game on when Sid Keenan, who was the president, used to look after the pitch. And it was a regular thing to be up here on a Saturday trying to get a game on because the pitch didn't drain very well at the time. And then I was asked to get involved a little bit more, and then obviously after that there was a bit of a, the existing directors decided they'd had enough, and then fortunately Steve Shipway and Jed came and got involved. And I think there was me and Andy Chilton who were really the only directors that were left at the time, like holding the baby a little bit. So it was a godsend when Jed and Steve got involved. And obviously since then it's taken off, as you know.
So looking at the old company directorships as I did, and I found out that Mark Bickley, IT consultant, it said at the time, and joined the board officially on 15th of July 2017. And you're finance director. How have you got a background in finance?
I was my first job was as a trainee accountant, so I worked for a firm of accountants. Did all that for 6 years. Then I became an accountant for a photocopying company. Did that for 6-7 years. Then I ended up being management accountant for Specialist Computer Centres, which Sir Peter Rigby owns, who lives locally. So first probably 20 years of my working life I was an accountant, management accountant, so that's what I did. And then with the explosion of computer systems, I started getting involved in transferring our old systems onto computers, and quite enjoyed that side of it. There was obviously moving all the financials onto computers was a bit tricky. And then when I decided to finish doing all that, I actually then got employed by a company to install financial computer systems as a consultant, and that's what I did for 10-15 years for different companies. So including the big time, which was the year 2000 thing, when everybody's computer was not going to work on the 1st of January when the gong struck midnight, and so we were like, we all earned a lot of money that year.
And I bet you didn't even stay up till midnight. Well, not on your computer anyway. No,
definitely not. I didn't want to be answering the phone at 1 minute past 12. Yeah.
So how did we've been chatting off mic, as it were, and we've just been talking about America, and you said you used to go over quite a bit to Boston and then California a lot.
Yeah.
Well, tell us all about that.
I used to work for a company called Firefox, who were quite a well-known company, but they were at the time.
Bit of a browser, eh?
They had they were the first company in the UK, based in Solihull, who had internet security, because internet was all new, but of course it certainly wasn't secure in those days, and they were one of the first companies to develop software that genuinely gave companies some form of internet protection. They exploded onto the scene and eventually got bought out by a big American company, and they're still around now as a web browsing side of it. They had offices in Solihull in South Africa, and then they had an office in California in Santa Rosa. So the Santa Rosa office used to do all the pack rim sales and support, and I used to have to go out there every 6 weeks and sign off all the bills and the invoices for the warehousing and the distribution. I got more involved in the distribution side of stuff, still with a bit of a financial hat on, and I just got involved in doing that. And to be honest, for 18 months, 2 years, I was travelling backwards and forwards to California for like 10 days at a time, so managed to... I feel sorry for you, hardship and all that. And I was a big golf nut then. I used to play 4 or 5 times a week, so I managed to do the Pebble Beach, Spyglass Hill, Spanish Bay, all the Monterey golf courses, which I managed to play, which was a
good clubhouses, aren't they?
Not bad. Golf courses are really tough, but if you got the chance to play them, you're going to play them.
Is that where you learnt all about grass?
No.
Okay.
No.
No.
On the contrary.
Any.
The grass they grow over there is completely different to what we grow over here.
Good fertiliser though.
Probably, yeah.
We'll talk about fertiliser a little bit later, won't we?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. I think we will. So, you mentioned that you got roped into managing the Stratford ladies for a season.
Mm-hmm.
So, how did Birmingham and Kidderminster come along as well then?
What, the ladies' side of
Yeah.
it? But the Birmingham bit was when we were Steve Shipway, who I first met when he was down here as physio for Mickey Moore, who was manager, because Steve was physio at Moor Green Football Club, and then when Mickey Moore came down here, I think he approached him and asked him to come and do the physio job down here. So that was the first time I met Steve. He was a very easy guy to get on with, and he's a blue nose, I'm a blue nose, and then he was chairman of Birmingham City Ladies, and then as we moved into the new ground and stuff like that, eventually after a couple of years they came and played. They had this as their home ground. So I used to be the stadium manager on match days. We had a couple of live games. I think we played Arsenal down here live on the television, which for a club like Stratford at the time, I mean, we were a Step 5 club then, it was a big thing, to have TV cameras down here and stuff like that. It was quite, for a club playing at that level to have, TV coverage, albeit, Premier Ladies football. But it was really enjoyable. I used to go to the away games and used to play some great stadiums. Yeah. Amazing how the games come on now.
Oh.
I mean, it is, they had good players then, but now it's so professional.
Absolutely. And what about Kidderminster then?
I went to Kidderminster after I was at Leamington, AP Leamington, and when Graham Horner left Leamington and went to Kidderminster Harriers, they hadn't got a youth team down there, so I went down there and was youth team coach for a couple of years down there. Had some great players because they were probably the biggest non-league team in the region at that time. So they used to pull all the best players, which is always helpful when you're trying to. I think the first trial we had 60 odd players turn up. We had to filter them down, but we had some really, really good players that went into that youth team, and some went straight into the first team when they were like 18, 19, and a lot of them went on to be pros, like Steve Lilwall and Forsyth, Mickey Forsyth. He went. Ricky Forsyth went on to do it. So yeah, we had some really good players, and it was quite. I was quite fortunate when I took my coaching badges, and I used to see Graham because he used to run a sports shop. He said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I've absolutely no idea," but I thought I'd do it because I was 28, 29 at the time, and I actually was fortunate to work with him, and he's one of the best coaches that's been around in non-league football for years, I was quite lucky that I was coaching at high level. I didn't do the low level. So when I started coaching, it was quite a challenge to actually sort of try and coach players that weren't as good as the ones that you were coaching before, because they didn't quite get it. So you have to be quite adaptable when you're doing stuff like that. But the Kidderminster thing was really enjoyable. And when we got to first team got to the FA Trophy final at Wembley. Replay was played at West Brom. I think they won. Beat Burton Albion. I think it was 2-1. So it was some really enjoyable times. But fortunately at that time I changed jobs and I ended up working down in sort of like North London, Reading way, and I ended up moving to Henley-on-Thames. So I had to knock it all on the head then.
Not a bad place to move to.
It was nice, very nice. Yeah. I played football down there. It was great. I mean, probably the best football pitch I've ever played on was at Walgrave-on-Thames. It's absolutely stunning. Because I think they only played 20 games a year on it.
So getting back to coaching then, what's this about you giving Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank some tips?
I know, that was about something else. Yeah, he kept on asking me to put, when we played him in a friendly down here a couple of years ago, he kept on asking, can you put the sprinklers on before the game? What? He said, can you put the sprinklers? Jimmy, I said, I've got the pitch like this. I don't want it wet. Oh, just put a bit of a zip on the top of it. I said, no, Jim, I ain't doing it. So we had he's a really nice guy actually, Jim, really nice guy. But he was complaining they'd spent a fortune on their pitch and it was a mess. And when I told him we'd only spent about $5,000 doing ours, he was like, how have you done that? And I went, wizard.
No. And you didn't actually tell him? That's a bit...
No, there's certain secrets you have to keep. Otherwise everybody would be doing it.
I see. So... everybody wants to know, fans are listening into this. This is a Stuart Morse Meets, and at the moment we're meeting the finance director. We're going to meet the wizard very, very shortly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
How's the club doing financially? Everybody wants to know.
Well, I think it's probably worth rolling the clock back 3 or 4 years, because when
you're not an MP now, are you?
No. When me and Andy Chilton basically ended up being the only 2 directors left at the football club, we were sort of like scratching our heads as to how how do we go forward, and then fortunately Jed and Steve got involved, and really, without their input and help and financial support, we would have struggled big time. I mean, there's no easy way. There's no point trying to paper over the cracks on that. We were in a situation where we needed some help, and it was just, fantastic that they came along at the time. A challenge, and there was a lot of negativity around that situation. But in fairness, if you look where we've come to now, we're turning over 3-4 times more than we were 5-6 years ago. The things we've done to this football club in terms of improving the environment, getting the pitch relaid, changing the bars, doing a load of work out on the pitch, the stands. It just doesn't look anything like it was 4 or 5 years ago. And as Jed will say, it's never enough. And he drives it forward. And from my point of view, it's still a real challenge and a stress and a strain sometimes. But at least you've got some people that understand the game to sort of like give you that advice. So I think we're in a good place. I don't think you can be complacent about these things, because football changes instantly. 1 month everything's going great, 2 months later you think, how did we walk into this? So, and I would never be naive enough not to think that there could be problems around the corner, but you've just got to be able to react to them.
Now, we've all obviously know about Nuneaton having to fold this year because of increasing debts that they've accumulated over many of the years. And when you actually go to see a game at Nuneaton, you see hospitality of about at least 100 people eating and drinking before the games, and you have good crowds of 1,000 people. Yet a team on the same division as us has fallen foul and not managed to make it even. How does Stratford is different from that?
We don't spend what we ain't got. Simple terms. I mean, I don't know. I can't comment on the financials of how Nuneaton did what they did. They're not unique. They're not the only club that's spent more than they could spend for whatever reason. There's a list of clubs that have fallen by the wayside like that. But from a personal point of view, I was never going to spend money I hadn't got. And certainly before Jed and Steve come in, we hadn't got a lot to spend at all. And the decisions we were going to have to make the following season in terms of what our playing budget could be and all that sort of stuff would have made a dramatic difference at the football club. But even so, even though we've had that financial support, we still don't spend what we're not making. So there's no point having somebody, in my opinion, who could put thousands and thousands of pounds into a playing budget, but the actual performance of the club from a financial point of view, it can't stand on its feet, because if that person then falls out of love or drops down dead tomorrow, football club goes bust. So I wouldn't stay involved in a situation like that. And that's where we're at. Me and Jed actually sat down, and we were, funnily enough, we're actually running through the last 5 years comparisons of what we were turning over in the bar, what we're doing now, what our commercial performance was 5 years ago to what it is now, and the gulf's enormous. We've improved things so dramatically. It's never enough. Jed will tell you, he always wants more. He always wants more, because we won't spend what we ain't got.
Now, the team's doing really, really well this year, and we are very, very close to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
We could well be in a playoff position after this weekend, with 2 games coming up. And what everybody wants to is we do really, really well and we get promoted through the playoffs, because I don't think we can hit top spot. That's going to give another headache for you next year, because things are going to exponentially increase again, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the plans for that?
You just buy some stronger headache tablets. Cut your cloth, don't you? I mean, I know that there are you do attract more funds when you go up a league to help cover the fact that you've got to travel up the northeast and wherever you might have to go. So it does come with a cost, and obviously your playing budget would need to be improved because you're playing obviously stronger sides and stuff like that. The positive thing is that there will be teams that will be visiting this location who will bring large amounts of supporters. So, and hopefully that also improves your chances of getting sponsorship and stuff like that. So like Mick and Burgery this year have done fantastic on the commercials. Well, I'll say fantastic, Jed will say it's not enough, but it's a vast improvement on where we've been before. And what you do is you work out what you can afford to pay, and that's what you do. And don't get me wrong, Jed gets the best value of money out of players. He won't go around and be throwing money at players, dramatically. You pay what you can afford to pay. Yeah. That's what we'll do.
I mean, we see time and time again, though, don't we? We get chairmen in there think that they can come into a club, buy the league, and then do actually win promotion from whatever money they're throwing in there, but all of a sudden that money dries up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then they've got to suffer the consequences, and so many clubs fall by that wayside by not actually thinking about what happens next and what is and where they need to break even. They just want the glory rather than...
Yeah. I mean, different people have different motivations as to why they want to own a football club. 95% of them must be mad, because most sensible, successful businessmen, why would they go and buy a football club? Because it's not a way of making money. So it's usually a personal passion to do it. And we have that here, but we're also, we also have a calm approach to it, the fact that we're not just going to go gung-ho. If we go up, I don't think you can ever choose a right time to go up. Sometimes it happens. I think when we got promoted we were in the Midland Football Alliance for 19 years before we eventually got promoted, and within 2 years we were promoted again into the level we're now playing at. So in 3 seasons we went from step 5 to step 3 and completely changed. I think if we did go up again, with the way Jed is and Stu is and the way we approach these things, we would do it properly. If you go up, you want to try and go up again if you can. But yeah, it's challenging.
I mean, we've seen that success from Tamworth winning our league last year and the top of the National League North this year. But likewise, teams that have gone up from our division, i.e. Rushall and Banbury United, are very close to coming back down again fairly soon after being promoted. Is it then a question of getting maybe consolidation into that league, or would you want to go?
I think, ideally, while you're on a bit of an impetus, you would want to try and do as well as you can and try and go again. Commercially will be what drives the success of it. Because no football club at this level or at step 2 can afford to do what they do purely on the people that come in and pay money at the gate. It's just you have to have a bar, you have to have other revenue, you have to have commercial activity, you have to have events, because the whole thing. There's no way the money that the clubs take on the turnstile at this level can afford to run. I mean, our coach bill, if we go into the conference, will go up tenfold, because you'll be travelling every away game's a trip.
Yeah.
So you have to cut your cloth, basically. I've said it a few times, but that's who I am. I'm already working on the budget for next year, and I'm working on the budget for next year based on if we stay where we are. But I know I'll dramatically have to tweak a few things if we go up.
Yep.
And then we just have to have a look at it.
Of course, we all do want us to go up because that's the success. But one of the things that's really happened this year is that the whole club is now coming together. As it was very, very fractious before, and now all the elements seem to be coming back under one umbrella, as it were. That must be a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, when I got involved with the football club, it was sometimes it's driven by individuals. You have people that run a particular part of the club that have their own agenda, maybe, and unfortunately sometimes they're allowed to do their thing, so they're building their own little empire to a degree. And I'm not trying to criticise people, because people give a lot of their time to do things for football teams and kids and all that sort of stuff. But I think to truly go forward as a club, you've got to bring all these people as to be all singing off the same hymn sheet. And I think we're very close to being there now. It's taken a long time to get that. And in fairness to Jed, you have to understand the culture of the football club. And I think because Jed's worked at a higher level, sometimes you watch what people do and you think, well, why would you do that? People's motivations are different. But I think because of the fantastic improvement we've had in the last 12 months, we're now getting all these people wanting to be involved in the football club, whether that's coming and having a drink in the bar after they've been training, coming to the game. I mean, the number of kids we've now got coming to the game and families coming to the game is unbelievable. I mean, we've gone from averaging 180 for, a top, when we won the league, we were getting 180, 190 people when we won the league. We're now getting 600, 700s and over 1,000 sometimes. And if you actually look at the mix, they are youngsters, a lot of whom are involved in the other sections of the football club. So they're buying into what the club is trying to do. So it's not someone's individual, sort of like idea as to what it should be. People, everybody's getting involved in it. And to a degree, with what you do, you're interviewing people from all different sections of the football club. I mean, 5 years ago, some of the people wouldn't even give you the time of day, as we probably wouldn't give them the time of day. So it's a two-way thing, and it's just brilliant. You go out there now, you go everywhere in town, bobble hats, scarves, shirts. So it's fantastic. I mean, when I many years ago, we used to use Legaya kit, which I did the deal with Legaya. If we sold 10 replica shirts a year, that was it. Now, everybody in Stratford's walking around in a Stratford shirt or a Stratford bobble hat.
Can't be bad.
Fantastic, isn't it?
Oh, it's absolutely brilliant. So let's sort of like move